I am committed to always finding ways to positively impact the community I call home. I believe that the students who feel connected to school are more successful in school. Families who feel more connected to our school system will partner with the schools and invest in our schools, and we will all benefit from that. Thank you.
Thank you. Laura Wiesen.
Children who attend Gloucester Public Schools, and I'm running for my 4th term on the school committee. Many people have asked me why I'm running again after the difficulties of last year. Today I was lucky enough to visit O'Malley for a brief midday band concert, and I was reminded again why I'm so committed to Gloucester schools and want to continue to contribute through my work on the school committee. I saw students' shining faces and listened as some of them explained that before band, they didn't really know where they fit in. I saw their trust and admiration for their teacher, the inimitable Carlos Menezes. And I saw how a community was coming together to make that program possible through the presentation of a generous donation to help fund the music program that is so important to so many. That's the goal of all of it, to serve students creatively, intellectually, emotionally, socially, to help them see ideas or instruments or tools or books or whatever it is that they haven't encountered before and that are all part of building a satisfying and fulfilling life. Budgets shrink and student needs continue to grow. And throughout it all, public education is an awesome responsibility. A responsibility to each and every student and family in this district to prepare children for the world they will inherit, to instill in them the possibilities that they can be whatever they choose to be. I've served on the committee through COVID, through budget cuts and reduction in force, and last year, most devastatingly, through the teachers and paras strike. I've learned that every single adult involved in our schools cares deeply for the students and the project of education, and we need each and every one of us to make this amazing project work. We in Gloucester still have a lot of work to do to make our schools the best they can be. We've made important improvements in curriculum, special education, and a sense of belonging, but there's still more work to do. That's why I'm running again, to bring my experience and my dedication as a parent, community member, and school committee member to the awesome responsibility of public education. I'm number 2 on the ballot. I hope you vote on November 4th.
Thank you. Melissa Teixeira.
Good evening. I am Melissa Teixeira Prince. I was born and raised in Gloucester, attended Gloucester Public Schools, and graduated from Gloucester High School back in the 1980s. My educational background includes a paralegal degree, a bachelor's degree in business management, and I graduated from law school and passed the bar in 2007. For the past 32 years, I've been employed at the Gloucester District Court in the Clerk Magistrate's Office as the office manager. I am married to retired firefighter Jay Prince. I have a granddaughter, Emma, who is a junior in high school, and my driving force for wanting to be involved in improving education in the Gloucester Public Schools. While I was in law school, my studies focused on juvenile law and First Amendment rights. I learned to be a very strong advocate. As a school committee member, I feel it's my responsibility to be a conduit between families and the school system and advocating for the needs of all children. I respect and create a lot of relationships with stakeholders involved. I believe relationship building is very important when you're trying to make progression in a school. I have very established relationships with city council members, with many families in the district, and always have an open ear to parents and those stakeholders that want to speak to me about issues within the school. Again, I feel like I'm a very strong advocate for kids. I know there are matters in the school that need to be addressed and have been addressed over the years, and the trajectory is improving. And I believe that good work is done because of collaboration between the school committee and the educators in our district, and want to continue on that path to make outcomes even stronger over the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you. Nas Taber.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Naz Taber. I'm running for Gloucester School Committee because I believe that our community deserves a district that is that's built on trust, that practices transparency, and delivers results to our community. My background's in IT, but I do have a passion for public service. I served 6 years in the Army National Guard, where I learned the importance of community action and being there for people when they need you the most. I moved to Gloucester 2 years ago with my wonderful fiance, who teaches kindergarten at Beeman. And after work every day, we sit around the dinner table or we sit on our back deck and we talk about the schools. And we sit there talking hours sometimes, just ideas. And I think that's what we really need to do here. I think we need to get together. We need to allow the teachers to have a voice. We need to give them the resources that they need to succeed. I think our student outcomes are directly attributed to if our teachers are working at their full potential. And I think that we, as a school committee, unlock their full potential. So my priorities are going to be to always be listening to the teachers, always listening to the community, taking in input, and making sure that we're working with that feedback. We want to make sure that we're being actionable and we're doing the right thing for our community. So again, we need to staff. We need to fill these positions that these teachers need, so that they need filled. And we need to rebuild that trust, especially after the teachers' strike. I think trust is the #1 thing we need to rebuild, and I think we can do that by listening to the teachers. I think with talking to our teachers, we can understand what we need to
Thank
do.
you. Oh,
Sorry.
that's done.
Thank you
That's
very
okay.
much.
Thank you. Brianna Hodgkins?
Hello, and thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Brianna Hodgkins. I am a community member, a longtime member of the community. I was born and raised in this area. I currently live in this area. I have 3 children who went to the school and 2 that are currently in the school. Sorry, 3 total. 1 that is graduated, 2 that are currently in school. And I'm running for school committee because I want to improve our quality, the quality of our students in the public education system. I envision an equitable education system that puts our students first. It's been proven that if our students' needs are met, that they can learn. And without having their needs met, they are unable to learn. So if we focus on giving students what they need first, then we can meet the needs of those students, then we can educate those students, and then we can support the teachers, the community, and the administration. As a candidate, I would like to focus on guiding the district towards these values to protect our children's. My experience spans over 30 years. I have a vast experience. I started my early years doing child care, substituting, working through numerous avenues. I went to college. I have 3 degrees, an associate's degree, which I received my first year in high school. I also went and received my bachelor's degree and my master's degree. I currently work as a product line manager. My history for the past 15 to 20 years is about in finance. However, 4 years ago, I transitioned into engineering. I've been working as a technical project manager. And now I've transitioned into marketing as a product line manager. So my vast experience will contribute well, leading this school committee into a successful new era of changing times. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy?
Hi, good evening. Thank you, 1623 Studios, for making this be accessible to so many people. My name is Kathy Clancy, and I've been on the school committee for a long time, before 2 new schools have been built, and before a lot of the improvements that we've seen in our schools. My son is a proud graduate of the class of 2022. I can't believe he's a senior in college already. He got a great education, and he knew what he wanted to do based upon the experiences he had in our schools. I started volunteering for the Gloucester Education Foundation even before he was in kindergarten, because I love their vision of making Gloucester schools one of the best in the state, and also the mission of providing innovative solutions to education and empowering teachers to do things that maybe the budget wouldn't provide, or a lot of state-of-the-art opportunities that our students deserve. And I think you can look, every grade level in our district and know what the Education Foundation has helped make happen in our schools. So I feel very passionate about public education. I myself went to a Catholic school, but I went in a small town, so it was just either you did one or the other, and it was no, just a very simple school. As I say, I have a bachelor's in accounting, MBA in finance. My career was over 20 years in strategic management and financial management. So I bring a lot of experience on the business side of things, which I think has been really helpful in a lot of tough budget times that we've had. I'm grateful that in more recent years we've had better funding through the Student Opportunity Act and some prioritization of school funding. Obviously, we still have work to do in terms of advocating at the state level for more, because our students have needs that require a lot of support, and we want to be able to provide that. So thank you. My time is up.
Thank you. Heather Daigle.
First, I'd like to thank the organizers of this event and the Magnolia Library for hosting us tonight. This is my first ever debate, so I'll be honest, I was definitely a bit nervous. Many of you already know me, but for those who don't, my name is Heather Daigle. I was born and raised in Gloucester. I attended East Gloucester School, Fuller, O'Malley, and graduated from GHS in 1996. I now have two daughters attending GHS, and I couldn't be more proud to raise my family in this community. I love Gloucester, and I love our school system. I truly want to see it thrive. Over the years, I've volunteered for many local organizations, including serving as the chair of Discover Gloucester, a member of North of Boston Visitor Bureau. I currently serve as the vice chair of the Affordable Housing Trust, and I'm involved in Cape Ann Business Alliance. In each of these roles, I started as a new person, but I've always brought a strong willingness to learn and never afraid to ask questions. That's exactly the approach I plan to bring to the school committee. Professionally, I'm a local realtor, but before that, right out of high school, I worked as a preschool teacher at the Little Red Schoolhouse for nearly 10 years. During that time, I earned my lead teacher certificate and worked closely with children with a range of behavioral diagnoses. I was trained by Furlough School's Early Intervention Program, and that experience gave me a deep appreciation for behavioral science. With so many of our COVID kids now entering middle school and high school, I believe we need to prioritize supporting their social and emotional development. These students miss crucial formative years, especially the peer-to-peer learning that happens naturally through play. We need to meet them where they are and help them succeed. If elected to school committee, my top priority will be to rebuild a respectful, collaborative relationship between our educators and administrators. Only through that kind of partnership will our schools and our students reach their full potential.
Thank you. Bill Melvin.
Yes, good evening. My name is Bill Melvin, and I'm a candidate for re-election to a seat on the Gloucester School Committee this November. I currently serve as the vice chairperson of that committee. Over the course of my 4-year tenure on the committee, I have held positions on the Building and Finance Committee, the Programs Committee, and I have been the chair, vice chair, or committee member for 8 different district negotiating teams during the 2024-2025 school year. Notably, I led the negotiations for the district during last year's teacher strike, which resulted in a ratified contract. For those unfamiliar with me, I'd like to provide a brief introduction. I was born and raised in Manchester and graduated from the Manchester Public School System. Upon graduation, I entered the United States Army, where I served proudly and honorably. Since leaving the Army, I've spent 30 years in the industrial manufacturing world, both in an operations and sales capacity. For 32 years, I've resided at the same residence on Western Ave in Gloucester with my wife, Beth Ann. We are the parents of 3 accomplished graduates of the Gloucester Public School System. Each of our children successfully completed their high school education and subsequently pursued higher education, graduating from college on time and earning the degrees in their chosen fields. Over the past 2 decades, I have been actively involved in youth and high school athletics, serving as a coach in both Gloucester and a neighboring district. Additionally, I continue to contribute to the leadership of Gloucester Little League. 4 years ago, I made a decision to seek election to the school committee. Despite my limitations, I was fortunate to be elected. I assumed the role with naive expectations about functioning of schools and my ability to make a substantial impact from the outset. In reality, serving on a school committee necessitates significantly more collaborative endeavor than I might have anticipated, and involves administrators, educators, staff, and parents. It also demands a tremendous amount of time. With that, I extend my gratitude to the Magnolia Library and Community Center for hosting us this evening.
Thank you,
and I
Bill.
would appreciate your support on November 4th.
Thank you, Bill. Keith Minio.
Everybody? Can you hear me all right? There we go. Yeah, my name's Keith Minio. This is my old stomping ground, actually. I used to play volleyball right in this room, if you can imagine. I grew up in Magnolia, went to preschool down the street. I graduated from GHS in '91. Subsequently, I worked in whale watching, actually with Heather here, working on Seven Seas Whale Watch. Did some fishing with my father. He's many generations of fishermen. And I moved away for almost 20 years, and in the back of my mind, I always thought I would come back. I always thought it was weird when people would say they didn't want to go back to their hometown, and I always wanted to come back. And when I finally had 2 kids, I wanted them to grow up in Gloucester. So when I came back here with my kid's mom, things didn't go well, and she moved, and now I have the kids by myself. And so I just thought I wanted to make Gloucester schools the best schools for my children, is why I am an incumbent, why I first got on the committee in the first place. I knew what it did for me. I was a biology nerd. I forced my way into advanced biology and then went to Clark University and placed out of 101 thanks to Mr. Walsh and his tutelage, if anyone knows Mr. Walsh, the football coach. And, I didn't do much with biology, but when I went to California, I worked in the performing arts music venue. Its mission was to propagate and preserve traditional music, and I also worked at a preschool cooperative as a teacher's assistant where my son went, and that was a great experience for several years there. And then when I came back here, I just had to, give back to the community that I grew up in, and that's why I'm on the committee. And I just want to quickly say that, it's been frustrating times for everybody. It's even frustrating for us on the committee, especially when test scores aren't where we want them to be, and we've got a lot of work to do, and I hope to have your vote in November.
Thank you, Keith. Jeremy McKean.
Hi, I'm Jeremy McKean, and I'm running for re-election to the school committee. I'm a parent of 3 in Gloucester school systems, a senior, a sophomore, and a 5th grader who's going to turn 11 tomorrow. And my wife and I decided to raise our family in Gloucester. Originally, I'm not from here, but all my kids are, so that's quite something. And I've been a teacher for 24 years. I teach high school English in Lynn, and it's been the greatest honor of my life to be a teacher and to help lead the students. Now I have students that are children of my former students, and it's the greatest honor of my life, really, to teach. I'm invested in the best quality for our students and our parents and our teachers, and over the last 2 years I've had the greatest education from the school committee and from the leadership and from the teachers to know exactly what a school committee person should be doing and what we should care about and who we can work with. And it's been an education of a lifetime. I've been on several negotiating committees as well as the programs committee, and I've often been quiet, but that's just because I've been learning and waiting, and I've really appreciated my time with this school committee, and I look forward to another 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll turn now to our first question. After I read the question, each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to respond to the question. The question is, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing Gloucester Public Schools, and how do you plan to address them? I'll read that one more time. What do you think are the biggest challenges facing Gloucester Public Schools, and how do you plan to address them? And we'll start with Keith Minio.
Yeah, hi. So we got 2 minutes here. Now, there's a lot to touch on that. So, biggest challenges in my mind is, well, when I first got on the committee, I believed in bottom-up government, and it was kind of frustrating at first noticing that it's more top-down. So I thought I could do a lot more on the committee. Not that I'm being stifled by the state or nothing, but that was an eye-opening thing. But more to the point, though, The biggest challenge to me is the mental state of our students and the challenges they're having in the modern world, especially with AI and social media and self-esteem and just finding their place in the world. We're at a strange place where we don't know what's going to happen with the next generation, and I think it really affects their ability to learn. Removing the cell phones from the schools, I think, is a great positive step, keeping that sort of thing away from them. And also, the challenges I also see are language issues. A lot of the students that come here who don't know much English and have to catch up and be academically proficient in English to learn the subject matter and take tests is also a difficult thing that we haven't seemed to be able to solve. The other, I don't know, think about something else here. Yeah, that's part of what my concerns are, is getting students who don't know English very well that come to our community able to actually, integrate into the school system where they can excel. Oftentimes they come to us behind several grades, and it's how do we catch these kids up while keeping them in the grade level for their age is another challenge I see. Yeah.
Thank you, Keith. Laura Wiesen?
So we have a lot of challenges. I think schools, public schools have a lot of challenges across the Commonwealth and across the nation. The three that came to mind as the biggest challenges for me were learning and achievement, the sense of belonging, which is something we talk about a lot, like having the pulls, being, wanting to be at school versus being pushed away, and mental health, which is a huge issue in our district and in the country. I think we've started to work towards deepening learning and improving achievement through curriculum, there's a new working group, which is staff and it's led by staff, and there will be one school committee member on it, but looking at what's going on in Gloucester Public Schools, where are the learning gaps and how do we reach them, right? We talk about listening to teachers, and so teachers are leading the way. One of the things that, mental health is obviously huge for the district, and devices and social media and all the things that come around that have been a huge, huge issue. So I'm the chair of the program subcommittee. We made a new policy based on removing cell phones from the classrooms. That's not going to be enough. This is a big community-wide issue that we're going to have to get families and everyone involved in. As a parent, I know how addictive these devices are and how much they impact our students' mental health. So, those for me are the three of the biggies. They're, could go on, but I would say those are my three, those are the three I would think about.
Thank you. Melissa Teixeira?
Oh, thank you. I think if you ask anybody in this community what one of our biggest challenges is, the response seems to be student achievement and why our scores aren't comparable to our surrounding communities like Manchester and Rockport. That is something that has stuck with me since the first time I got on this committee, which was many years ago. How do we improve, and why, with all the efforts that our district has taken, either through school committee, through administration, through educators and family assistants getting involved, why aren't our scores going up? Every year, we put more resources in the classroom. We know our teachers are burnt out, and rightfully so, especially since COVID. The students that attend our schools today aren't the students that were there when I was in school years ago. So I always want to say, oh, it's a quick fix, this is what you need to do because this worked for me in school. The students that come to school today have been infiltrated with social media and now AI coming. They can't believe what they see, they can't believe what they hear, and that to me is the biggest obstacle in our school, and that to me is one of the reasons our scores aren't where we want them to be. We need more resources in the classroom. Kids learn individually now. It's not everyone facing the teacher and the teacher just giving direction to the students and they walk away and go home and do their assignment. There are a lot of behavioral issues. There's a lot of trauma with some kids in our school. There's a lot of social and emotional matters going on with mental health. Our schools are 60% high needs. And the true fact, in my opinion, is there's just not enough resources in our school that allow our teachers to do the job that they need to do while having assistance with their instruction. And I could go on, but I can't.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy?
Yeah, unfortunately, it is the common theme that our scores are not good. And we've shown, I think, kind of a slowdown of some of the progress we had been making in certain areas. And so a renewed urgency is really what we focused on as a school committee and administration this past school year. Through the negotiations, we formed a joint working group with educators and administration and a school committee person, as well as family members and community members, because this problem is bigger than just the teachers in the classroom. This is about community valuing education, getting our kids to school, having them attend on a regular basis and understand the importance, but also the joy of learning. I mean, our mission is for all students to be successful, engaged, lifelong learners, and if kids aren't having a good time learning or are not being inspired in the classroom, then it's very difficult to reach them. We've also had different challenges come up over the years, and more recently it's behavior problems with certain kids. Some of that is because of disabilities. Some of it, I think, is setting expectations for their behavior, both at home, and hopefully that translates to better learning in the classroom and less distractions in the classroom, and hopefully an easier classroom for teachers to reach on a regular basis. We as a school committee need to provide the tools for teachers to be able to do their job, and we've done curriculum reviews and implementation. We do professional development, and we know that these new challenges that have evolved over time that all educators are talking about, probably weren't being taught or talked about, when a lot of our teachers got their degree in education. And so continuing education in a lot of these areas that are the challenges are really important because we know that not everybody knows how to address every problem, and as the problems evolve, you've got to use new strategies. Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna Hodgkins?
Yes, thank you. So for the biggest challenges, I think that you're going to hear these in reverse order of what they should be, but I think I'm going to state them in the way that they need to be addressed. So our biggest issue is our budget. We have a budget that does not meet our students' needs. It does not meet the needs of our staff. It does not meet the needs of our school systems. And then that leads to the second, we lack resources. You could hear from everyone on the panel, we're all saying the same thing. We significantly lack resources to support our teachers, to support our students. And that comes to the third one, is support. We lack the support to meet the needs of our students so that they're ready to learn. And that's why our scores are not where they need to be. We can address this by, number one, taking a deep dive into the financials. So there's a few of us here that have some finance background, and we can take a look at that and we can see where money is going, where it should be going, where we can save money, where we can raise money. The other thing is, once we get that needs-based budget set, we get the resources that we need. And guess what? When we have the resources that we need, we get the support that our students need. And when our students get the support that they need, guess what? They learn. And our scores will improve. So I would focus on these three areas, and I think this is our path for success. We need to meet our students' needs.
Thank you. Now, Bear.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenges facing Gloucester schools, I agree, are the test scores. But I think if we look even deeper, I think it's the proactivity of the district. I think we can achieve a district that is more proactive, and I'll take the buses as an example. We knew we had an issue with the buses, that we didn't have enough staff to properly transport our students. And so I went online and I looked for the application for a bus driver, and I couldn't find it. I looked everywhere, and it was nowhere to be found. It was brought up into different school committee meetings. Finally today, the job was posted, which was great, but we need to be more proactive. If we want our teachers to succeed and we want our student outcomes to be better, we need to equip our teachers, we need to talk to them, and we need to make sure that we're listening and we're being proactive in our district. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy McKean?
Yes. There are a few challenges. One of them is to have ongoing support for our teachers and students. Teachers need constant support to do what they do in the classroom, and we've met that, and we have PD, but we always need more. We need to consider AI. That's one of the things. We have a programs committee where I'm hoping our next task is to tackle AI, which has taken over the world, taken over some of my students' essays and how they take notes and how they learn, and also to make sure that IEPs are being met, that students are getting the services they need, and that our students are seen. I mean, that's the one thing, is to be that kid who isn't seen in school and whose needs may be overlooked. That student is always on my mind. A teacher who is burnt out, or a teacher who's on the edge and just needs some sort of support, whatever that may be, that teacher's on my mind. Inclusion is another thing that I want to see working pre-K through 12. It's been working in the elementary schools, and I've been an inclusion teacher for 15 plus years, and I've had wonderful educators in my classroom that have helped me meet students' IEPs and 504s and bring, somebody's thought they were saying no to me, telling me to stop talking. So there's the whole range of issue, and that's the whole point of the school committee, is to provide for the students and the teachers and the parents, and that's what I hope to do and continue.
Thank you. Heather Daigle?
So I'm going to go with staffing. I think that there should be, and this starts off from bus drivers all the way up to school psychologists. There should be a para in every classroom, especially with the behavioral issues we have going on right now, and teaching these paras the behavioral techniques they need to stop the behaviors, recognize triggers, and take out of the classroom and give them a break when they need a break. This way the teachers can continue to teach the curriculum that they have planned for the day. And I do think that this will trickle down, helping with test scores and children's behaviors. I do think having maybe a couple of therapists in the school, especially in these times of COVID, and recovering from COVID, I should say. But children need to have somebody to go to, and I think that might be what's lacking. Sorry. I think that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea Liakis?
One of the areas that is concerning to me is special education costs, the rising costs of out-of-district placement and all of the transportation costs that are associated. I'm not sure why we're not looking at ways to improve our special education programs and becoming the district where other cities and towns are sending to. I think we need to be looking at what types of needs our students have that require them to be outplaced, and strengthening our own programs. I think we also need to take a deeper dive into seeing at what age are we sending kids out of the district. If we're sending a first grader out, Gloucester is on the hook until they graduate from high school, and in some cases, until they turn 22. We have to do better there. And a secondary item to that is that I believe that our special education students and their families have a right to feel like they belong in their own school community where they live. I don't believe that we should be sending our families and our students to other districts to receive services that we could and should be providing if we would invest in those resources. Another big item of mine is strengthening Tier 2 intervention services. My own daughter was a recipient of Tier 2 intervention services throughout elementary school, and they were invaluable to her. But I don't think that Tier 2 interventions are strong enough here in the district, and not only are they not strong enough, it doesn't matter how many resources you put into a classroom if you are constantly pulling an educator out. You cannot operate with fidelity if you do not honor the time and the people in the room. My last soapboxy moment is concerns about student behavior at O'Malley in particular. I work with middle school students. They are the funkiest bunch of kids, and they make crummy choices. But we have got to model appropriate standards of behavior. We have got to be consistent, and we have got to have clear expectations for them and their families. I think this is an area where we need to do a lot more work with the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Melvin?
Yes, the problem with going last is that I have absolutely zero original thoughts left to share, but I think some of the stuff's really been already said. Improve student learning, improve the test scores. I think it's a more nuanced problem than meets the eye. It's not a simple linear, oh, our students aren't doing well enough. There's a bunch of factors that go into that, and I think sometimes that's missed. But it's certainly important, and it's certainly something that we need to focus on. I think someone mentioned the joint working group that came out of the strike with a bunch of different stakeholders to look at improved student learning and to report back to the school committee on their findings is a step in the right direction and something that we can kind of hang our hat on. Someone else mentioned budgets and funding. I think that's a serious problem. We're up to, the school budget is $54 million for 2026, and we're not operating in a vacuum. We're part of a larger community. There's other things that need funding, and we need to really be cognizant of that. And then for me, the third one was teacher and student safety. Nobody wants to go to school and feel like, this might be a bad day for me. So I think it's really important that not only the teachers feel safe amongst the students, but the students feel safe with other students in the classroom. And that's something that we can help with as far as policy and procedures go to equip our administrators with the tools they need to kind of help with those issues. But it's become a larger issue, I think, in the past 5 or 6 years, and something that we need to tackle. I like resilient kids as much as the next person. I like kids that are kind of gritty and kind of not afraid to, be that way. But we also need to make sure that they're safe and that they can learn in safety.
Thank you. That brings us to our second question. Again, I'll read the question, and each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to respond. The question is, what lessons can be learned from the 2024 educator strike? And looking back, what would you have done differently to avoid it? I'll read that again. What lessons can be learned from the 2024 educator strike? And looking back, what would you have done differently to avoid it? Okay, this time we'll start with Jeremy McKean.
Great, thank you. So in my teaching life, I've worked for the union on the local and state level for the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, as well as AFL-CIO. I was privileged to be a futures president back when they had a futures program, and I was a union rep for years and served on the executive committee. So I've seen the power of the union at work, and I've seen the power of teachers coming together and putting pressure and doing exactly what unions are supposed to do. So when it comes to lessons from last year, I step back and say, number one, how could we have supported the teachers more before the strike? If we go back to the Paris contract, could I have done anything? I came to the school committee 2 years ago, so I was not tall enough to ride the negotiating committee ride, but I was privileged to serve on several negotiating committees throughout the past 2 years. So when I met with the UGE and we had about an hour conversation, and I left saying I want to work with the teachers. That's what I've been saying for 2+ years since I started running. It's all about the students, it's all about the teachers. So a lesson is that now that we've moved on from the strike and we can work together, that's my true hope, is simply to work for the teachers and work with the teachers like we all do, and to create new bridges and better relationships and more open dialogue, and I'm dedicated to that. I mean, that's the whole reason I'm in this, is because high five, because I'm a teacher, and because I love what I do and what the teachers do. It's one of my passions in life.
Thank you, Jeremy. Melissa Teixeira.
I am a union member during the day. I belong to local Union 6, and I wholeheartedly believe in the power of a union, and that is what we saw last year when the MTA and Paris decided to go on strike. So I believe in the passion that came from those conversations. What we learned from that strike, I would say, is one thing I took away is after the fact is learning how important it is to keep kids in school, because the kids not being in school was detrimental to their learning that year, and absenteeism that came afterwards was not helpful. With that being said, I 100% support the conversation and believe the conversations need to be had until you come to an agreement. I wish we had been able to negotiate during the day in some capacity so that kids could stay in school, but the teachers and the educators felt very firmly in their beliefs. And what I learned after the strike is a lot of good came out of that strike, even though the kids were impacted a little bit. And I just want to give you a little bit of information of what came out in that contract that I feel was beneficial. The GTA got a lot of good language that involves them in curriculum. They developed a rubric committee, emotional distress in the classroom. Conversations are happening, more curriculum work. There's a joint working group to deepen student learning. There's more professional development coming to preschools. For the paras, there's more training. So while the strike was happening, it was really disappointing. I had a lot of parents calling me, what do we do? How do we get the teachers back in the classroom? It wasn't just about the money when many people thought it was. But the response from the community in giving us pressure to settle the contract was very helpful. What I would do differently, have the conversations until you come to a good conversation while keeping kids in school.
Thank you. Brianna Hodgkins?
Okay. So there was two things I learned during the teacher strike. One was I learned that paras and special education are undervalued in our community. And I also learned that many of our community members choose to spend that money in other avenues over special education. If I was in the position at the time to have done something differently, there are two things I think that I could have helped to prevent it from happening or to help it close sooner. Is one, educate. We need to educate the community with clear and transparent information, with facts. There was a lot of information that was, on both sides that was confusing, and there was a lot of misleading information from different sources. So educating the community, being a collaborator to come in. So I do this mainly in both of my jobs today, where I have to work with the stakeholders that all have different goals and agendas and bring them together and say, okay, here's what's at stake. Let's work together to come to a conclusion to resolve this. And then collaborate, work with teachers to resolve it before it got to this point. Teachers should have never been not able to, is I would have tried to prevent, and I don't know all the rules, I'm new to this, but prevent the teachers from starting the new year without having that contract in the first place. I think there should be some sort of rule and negotiation that there has to be a contract. It's not fair for these paras who make very minimal wages to have to work without pay for a long time. And I think we need to educate the community on what these paras do and the value that they bring to our community and our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Bear.
Yeah, I agree. I think no educator should work without a contract. I really believe that if you have an educator that's worried about their financial situation, how powerful can they be in the classroom? How dedicated can they be to their work? So I think it's very important that something like this never happens again, and that happens with working together, creating a real partnership between the union and the school district, where we're continually improving benefits, continually improving your wages and your way of life so that you can focus on the classroom. And then when we get to contract negotiations, we already know what we want, and we can easily get there, and we don't have to go on strike and have our students and our community suffer. So I think just building that partnership, rebuilding that respect with our community and with the union, I think is paramount and super important. So thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy?
Yes, I was on the negotiating team, not for the paras, but for the teachers, and then we ultimately came together doing both during the strike. And one thing I've been thinking about is this idea that there was a lack of respect, and to me that comes down to better communication, because we all are on the same team for our kids. We all believe in Gloucester Public Schools. We send our kids there. Our kids graduate. I volunteered in the classroom for the first 6 years of my child's education, and to say that we don't value and don't understand what's going on in the classroom is really not accurate. And things have changed and there's more challenges, but that does not mean we don't care, and it does not mean that we don't empathize with the new challenges that our educators have been facing. We try to put resources there. You know, the strike was really disruptive, and you know, the one goal that I feel very strongly about, and Melissa had said, is we should be negotiating when students were in school. We had COVID. We know the negative impact of COVID. There's a reason strikes are illegal, and that's because our schools are the most essential thing our community can do for our kids. And this is the only place that they are going to get educated, is in school. It's not going to happen when they're home, particularly during some of the key learning times. So, you know, I think communication, I think kind of really trying to hear each other. I think one of the things that helped during the strike was smaller group conversations, and I think, you know, had we gotten to some procedures like that, and you know, just to get some conversations going and making sure both people are hearing each other's point of view. So there's a lot to learn, and it wasn't fun for anybody, families, kids, educators, the community.
Thank you. Heather Daigle?
So I don't think the strike was easy on anybody, so I don't want it to come across that way. But I do feel at what point, after 250 days or 500 days without a contract, would be appropriate for them to strike. I mean, I think they all got to a point where it was time to strike. They needed to do something. I think that better planning with inflation soaring, water, heat bills, grocery bills tripling, an unstable economy, a new administration, wars starting, stock market crashes. I think that planning a little bit better, we should have probably seen it coming, that they were going to want a better raise, and it's our job to advocate to the city and plan for more money in the budget to do so. And I do know that they did go back for more money, but again, I think we need to fight a little harder for our city leaders to put more money into our school systems. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Melvin?
I wish I had about 30 minutes to answer this, but I don't. I got just a few minutes. I think it's important to note that the real work was done in small groups. You know, the rhetoric on both sides, in front of people, in front of larger groups, that is what it is. When it came time to meeting privately in small groups, that's where the work got done. And I never felt during those smaller conversations that I was being disrespected, that I felt like, well, I'm being mistreated. I felt like we were all kind of working towards a common goal. and I appreciated that from the teachers. So I would have probably said, let's get to smaller groups right away. The larger group in a large room with hundreds of people standing around, to me, was relatively counterproductive. It was in the small groups where I could sit and talk face-to-face with a couple of educators that I felt that the real progress was made. I'd also add that I felt great about some of the things that we were able to offer. I remember we were sitting in one group and we offered the new paid parental leave policy. And the teachers that were around that table, and I think there was 3 of them, they were genuinely thankful that we were able to do that. It was in the middle of the strike, and I still felt like, wow, what a great thing to see that the teachers appreciated something that we were able to kind of offer. And sure, they put pressure on us to get to that point, but I think it's important to recognize and to have some grace about the whole thing. It's easy to kind of say, well, you know, standing in front of the mic and shouting out all this stuff, but really when you get down, it's a people business. It's a people negotiation. And if you can show a little bit of grace during that period, it certainly went a long way towards helping. And I think the teachers and we also did that. So I think we both did that, and I appreciate it. So.
Thank you. Keith Minio?
Yeah, you know, it was a trying time for a lot of us. Me as a parent, it was like flashback, PSD from COVID. Kids are out of school, and nobody knows when it's going to end. It was difficult for us, and lessons learned, I think, leading up to the strike, before the end of the school year, the committee was talking, you know, about the state of the negotiations, and I was really surprised that the dates offered over the summer were rejected to negotiate. So I think if you know, there were also at the same time rumors of a impending strike, and I think if we got ahead of that and said that, you know, insisted more on negotiating over the summer, there wouldn't be any need to have had a strike because we had a lot more time to negotiate. I do want to thank Bill and Kathy and Laura for being on the negotiating committees, and I wasn't a part of that, but I saw the work they put in on that. You know, they gave up weeks of their life and gave up their professional careers to dedicate to that process, and I felt it was negotiating under duress. So I got the agreement put in front of my lap, and I know that you know, our kids legally have to be in school, and I felt like I had to make a decision, and I was forced to vote for a contract I had no part of because we had to get our kids back in school. So I think being proactive in the first place and communicating better and being more respectful, mutually respectful, the ad hominem attacks were getting out of hand. We all want what's best for the teachers. We all want what's best for the students. I'm a parent. A lot of the people here are parents, and everyone on the committee wants to give the moon to the teachers. It's just being fiscally responsible is what we're charged with doing.
Thank you. Andrea Liakis?
I think it's really important to remember that the teachers were not responsible for the COVID shutdown. I think that's really critical. They are 2 different events that just happened to happen within 5 years of each other. And both are unfortunate, but teachers were not responsible for the COVID shutdown. I think that the strike was certainly challenging, but it also showed me how valued the teachers are in this community and the paraprofessionals. Just driving down the boulevard every day, seeing them there, seeing kids standing with them, hearing cars honking, was sort of inspiring for my children. I know that it was challenging as a parent and as a working educator myself to make things work. I fully supported their need to strike. I feel like contract deadlines exist for a reason, and people on both sides of the table should be able to negotiate prior to a contract expiring. If the paraprofessional contract had been settled, the teachers would have had trust that their contract would have been settled in a way that was fair and appropriate. I feel like Gloucester has a history of kicking the can down the road. To echo some of the sentiments that people have set up here, we need to be much more proactive. And it's not just for raises, it's for staffing in general. And if we can't give raises and we can't staff appropriate, then we can value educators as people. And that is how we treat them and how we speak about them and to them. I heard a lot of information about how many hours we require teachers to be in the buildings. I am here to tell you that I am required to be in the building from 7:20 to 2:20 every single day, but my job begins probably at 6:15 in the morning with me being in the classroom, and it does not end until probably 6 o'clock at night. It is unfair to paint teachers with a brush that says that they only work during their contract hours. We need to value them not just financially, but with time and respect. Mic drop.
Thank you. Laura, thank you. Laura Wiesen.
So I was on the Paras team and I was on the GTA team. It was among the worst things I've ever experienced in my life. Lessons learned from the strike. The way people in a small town can act, even to people who they know, was devastating to me. I think so much of what happened was about communication. We've talked a lot about respect. I was in all of those teams. The day we arrived just to begin the Paris negotiations, so the first day of a negotiation is just ground rules. You're not talking yet about what's happening, you're just saying, okay, here's how we're gonna do it. That day we were greeted with a rally where the head of the Massachusetts Teachers Association came. So frankly, as someone on that team, it was quite clear that this was much bigger, and it was planning to be much bigger than this negotiation. I know for myself that I sat on that team with people who've taught my kids, who I respect, who I treasure, who I see at school because I volunteer in buildings all the time. And there were good relationships in those rooms. But when the communication goes onto Facebook, and when the communication starts making one side an enemy of another side, it's very, very hard to break into actual who are people doing the work. I had a really interesting conversation with a teacher who's a neighbor the other day. And I said, you know, people run for school committee because they care about the schools. There's no other reason to do this. We do this because we're parents, because we value education, because we want to have an input. And it was interesting because she said, it's good. I think you should remind people of that. That's a good thing to tell people about, and that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to our third question. Our third question. If the budget does not allow for the hiring of more staff, what are your plans to support teachers and administration with dysregulated students that could disrupt the learning of their classmates? I'll read that again. If the budget does not allow for the hiring of more staff, what are your plans to support teachers and administration with dysregulated students that could disrupt the learning of their classmates? And we'll begin this time with Bill Melvin.
I think it's a really important question. It was one of the top things that I had on my list as far as what we really need to work on, which is teacher and student safety. I think as a school committee, sometimes people get the role of the school committee kind of confused. We're not involved in the operational side of the school day per se. We're involved in setting policies and procedures that will help administrators deal with issues within the school. We had a situation at O'Malley this year where we had a couple of community meetings, we came together, and it was clear to me that we needed to do, as a school committee, we needed to review our policies and procedures to give administrators and teachers the tools they needed to deal with deregulated students. If we don't do that, then we've failed to do our job. And I don't think there's anything more upsetting to me than to hear about deregulated students in the classroom and trouble, the teachers being extremely stressed out about that, understandably stressed out about that. And our job as a school committee member, or as a school committee, is to continue either to write policy or review and update policies that will help administrators and teachers deal with that stuff. Nowadays, there's all kinds of laws and all kinds of issues that really kind of forces schools to keep kids in school, and it can be very, very stressful for teachers. I totally get that. We need to make sure that we're putting the guardrails in place to give them the tools that they need to handle situations with deregulated students.
Thank you. Laura Wiesen.
Yeah, this is an issue that has come to our attention a lot, that is hugely important. As a parent who volunteers in the schools, I've been there when there's been a learning in place. I've seen what happens when a dysregulated student disrupts a building. And it's difficult for staff, it's really difficult for students who are scared. It's just a terrible situation. As Bill said, I mean, we don't manage the operational side of a building. We don't make classrooms, and that's one reason, just tangentially, why the small groups during the strike worked so well. Because the people who do the work were together making decisions and having conversation about how to make it better, and that's what I think got us through. I think policy, and I think PD, I mean, professional development, which we have, which there's more and more of it, on how to deal with dysregulated students safely for staff is hugely important. As a school committee member, there's a big education piece of all the laws around what you can do with students, what you can't do with students, how you can take a student out of a classroom or not. And I think for an outsider, it's very surprisingly difficult. But I think to begin with, we need to give our staff the tools to know what to do with a dysregulated student, how to best approach a situation that could be volatile. And then for us as school committee members to write policy that helps us both deal with the incident itself and also with the data around it, which I know is a big issue, how to know what happens with the data around these issues happening in our buildings. Thank you.
Thank you. Andrea Liakis.
I think I'm going to build off of what both Bill and Laura just said. Professional development is mission critical about how to deal with a student who, for whatever reason, is not having a good day and chooses to let you know in your classroom. A lot of times these students are not letting you know in private, they're letting you know in public. And I think one of the people, or one of the groups of people that's frequently forgotten about in this experience are the other kids in the room. I have known students in my own classroom and students in Gloucester classrooms that are extremely empathetic and they are understanding. That doesn't mean that they're not frustrated by the experience, but they are understanding and empathetic. They also need some sort of support after witnessing a student who is dysregulated. They need an opportunity to reset and be ready to learn so that their entire day isn't also gone. I think that the issues at O'Malley came up last year. You were talking about how we had a couple of community forums. We did have those community forums, and then nothing happened. Or, to be fair, I don't know if something happened, because if it did, it was not communicated. But there was an enormous amount of parent support and parents ready to get involved and roll up their sleeves. And for whatever reason, I feel like we just don't engage the parents. They are just as much of a valuable stakeholder as the teachers are, as the school committee, as your superintendent, and all of your building leadership. You absolutely need to engage the parents to get some creative ideas on how to help all kids. That's all kids who are dysregulated, all kids who are having just a regular day, and some kids that are just watching it all and waiting to see what's going to happen next.
Thank you. Melissa Teixeira.
Thank you. One of the responsibilities of a school committee member is budget, and I chair the Budget and Finance Subcommittee along with Kathy and Bill. Our budget this year was $54 million. 85% of that budget goes to salaries and benefits for our staff. Our special education budget is $7 million. That's for out of district. Our out of district transportation is about $1.2 million. A lot of our money is being invested in special education and teacher salaries with very little wiggle room. You've heard tonight from all of us what we think the response is to improve education, and that is more resources in the classroom. What I can tell you is we all want that. Our budget does not support that, and that's why it's not happening. The school committee gets a budget from the city, and that money is given to us, and we have to decide how to spend that money. Our budget is very transparent. I have a copy of it here. It's online, can be found anywhere. And you will see that we are not provided enough money for success in our schools. And the battle that we face is there are a lot of people in this community that believe our schools are overfunded and the schools get too much money, and that no matter how much money you throw at us, it's not going to make a difference. That's not true. We know it's not true. The resources we need in the classroom are not available to us because our budget cannot afford it. Now, we look for ways to live within our budget. This year, we created an autism class, and it's going to prevent students from going out of district. We are looking for ideas to save money within our budget so that we can spend the money accordingly and get more resources in the classroom. Our out-of-district transportation, we now have an agreement with the collaborative so that we're not just busing students out of district, we're busing students with other district students to save money on transportation. So there are ideas that we try within our budget to live within our budget, but there's no doubt that the budget we are given does not give us the tools that we need.
Thank you. Jeremy McKean.
Thank you. So I've had classrooms of 42 kids to begin with as a teacher. That's not just 1 year, one off, that's every year. And that's what happens when there's not a budget for another teacher. So if you have a problem, give it to a few teachers, they'll figure it out. And teachers always do more with less. However, our kids have some of the greatest teams available to them. And so, for example, I was in an IEP meeting, and this one kid, this great kid, there was several counselors, a therapist, the parents. I was a general ed teacher. We had the special ed department head was there, and I just thought, this is amazing. This one kid gets this whole team of support, and I wish that we could have that for every student. We have safeguards in place to protect our children, and I think that it's a work in progress. I think, it depends on the budget. It depends on, when we got those list of 42 kids, we went right to the guidance counselor and said, this is undoable. We can't do this. We figured it out. And it's not that teachers should always do more with less. They should be doing with more. But that often we have limited resources until we do. And I don't have... a big thing during last year was safe schools, the teachers that spoke with us, saying I'm not safe in the classroom. We need to better listen to these teachers and find out real solutions. And also, support our admin. They're the ones that take care of this. When it finally comes to the school committee, we don't deal with the classroom part as much in terms of admin policies, but in terms of bigger policies.
Thank you. Brianna Hodgkins.
Yes, thank you. My first response would be that I would not accept that there's not enough budget to provide our students what they need, because that's the law. That's the law. Most students with these behavioral issues have IEPs. And if their IEPs were being met, we wouldn't have these behaviors. If we had the resources to support these IEPs, we would not have these issues. So, no, we should not accept that the budget does not allow a needs-based budget. Assuming that that goes nowhere like it went nowhere last year, there's a couple things we can do. One, we can collaborate. We can work with the community. We can go to the senior care homes. We can go to single stay-at-home parents or people willing to come in and be support in the school, have a presence, positive presence in the school to help guide, to give help to the teachers, to the parent, and the admin. We could partner with the YMCA and do a share program where we could share resources with them, because their resources have to go through the same criteria as some of our resources. We could look to educate our teachers, right? As we've heard here, the way teaching was done years ago, apparently it's very different nowadays. And guess what? It's going to get very different really soon with AI. So we could look to educate our teachers, give them the tools and the resources to know how to support situations that get out of control if there are no behavioral support staff available. We could also use good peer supports. We could have children in the classroom who maybe have a sibling or a brother, use them to help and support the dysregulated students. And then we should also use therapists to help the children of the other kids in the room.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Heather Daigle.
If the city leaders don't recognize or want to recognize or face what's going on in our schools, we need to make them. There's really just not an option to continue the way we're going. The test scores are down, kids are afraid to go to school, curriculum's being disrupted constantly. There's just not an option to not get more money from our city leaders.
Thank you. Nostaber.
Yeah, I believe that there are two different things that, other than adding more staff, that we can do to handle this issue. I believe that's teacher training. Make sure that we have proper PD for our educators and paras. If they want to become safety care trained, I think we should let them and encourage them to do so. I think our teachers should be trained in de-escalation techniques because they are the first ones to respond to these students in the classroom. And then, like Andrea said, I think parent involvement is super important. I think that if we do have disruptive children in our classroom, they need to become a priority, not just for the teacher, but for the parent as well. I think we get them involved in the process, and we come up with creative ideas to hopefully curb their behavior. We should focus on restorative discipline instead of punitive discipline, because I think in our schools every chance is an opportunity to learn, and I think discipline is no different. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Minio.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on this, but I'll try to make it quick. I seem to be running out of time, and here I go again. But, the question is about whether we don't have the budget. So if we don't have the budget, I've been advocating, as in my position on school committee, for positive peer influence. I think a lot of the heavy lifting can be done with that. Having, say, a student group, in particular O'Malley, where it seems like growing up, adolescents going through puberty seems to have these issues with discipline where you're testing your boundaries. Not unique to us, of course. It's just that age group, and it's really difficult without the staff in place to address it. So I think we can do a lot with positive peer influence, different groups, maybe tutoring groups for students that are struggling, just setting an example for other students of what's acceptable in the classroom, and also empowering teachers to have the ability to effect disciplinary actions, and having the administration having their back in that. I heard complaints about teachers not having the support from the administration in the particular schools. So I'd like to see revisions in the school policies. We do vote on the policies that are recommended to us. And as far as restorative justice, we've been doing that for a while, and I think maybe we have to rethink how that's used. Punitive kids react to consequences, and I think kids need to know there are consequences. Slogans, banners, I've seen that in the schools. Kids are gonna not see those after a while. They won't respect those. In professional development, I know paras are, I think, doubled their professional development, especially because of safety issues. And there's a lot more to do in community outreach, like Heather, I think somebody over here was saying, I forget who, but YMCA.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy?
Okay, so I'm going to focus on what you said, is the term dysregulated, which are students that actually have a diagnosed disability in terms of their behavior, not just acting out in a classroom, because the two are very different things. During the strike, we came up with, because special education and these issues of safety and how we were reaching kids were really important, we came up with forming behavior teams, behavioral-based teams, both at the district level and at the school-based level. They include administrators and educators so that things can be talked about and so that learning can happen both within a school, but also if something is working, it can also be communicated on a district level. As I said before, we don't know all the answers. The superintendent doesn't know all the answers. These problems are not, they're just coming, at a much higher rate than they used to. And so it is really a much more significant issue for everybody to deal with in a collaborative way. I will say that the professional development schedule is, for the most part, done on a collaborative way. So things like safety care training and things like that, are definitely on the agenda, and it is being done. And if it's not reaching certain people that need it, then those conversations need to happen between the superintendent and those people that collaborate on the educator side. I will also say that in our budget, we are off to a different year this year. We have added about 4 special education positions. We've also added or elevated special education teachers to more of a program director position in a few of our schools. We believe that that's a way to better organize the work and better serve students so that information gets shared among the staff within that school. Okay, just one second though. I also want to say that we have started special education programs that have allowed some students to stay within our district and some to come back. So we are doing some of the things that we've all talked about.
Thanks.
So hopefully we'll see results.
Thank you. Okay, we move on to our 4th and final question. This was contributed by a student in the Gloucester Public School System. And the question is this: what can the school committee do about the Gloucester Public School System's problems with vaping and drugs? At times, bathrooms are closed and/or student access to them limited, but this won't address the problem of addiction and of drug use becoming normalized among the student body. I'll read that again. What can the school committee do about the Gloucester Public School System's problems with vaping and drugs? At times, bathrooms are closed and/or student access to them limited, but this won't address the problem of addiction and of drug use becoming normalized among the student body. First up for this one is Heather Daigle.
So I think that, again, it's giving funding to drug education to the students, having maybe some of the teachers that the kids look up to help educate them on what the issues are and starting these drugs or making it more of a cool thing for the kids not to do it, but also having more presence in the restrooms or in the play yards, making sure that the students are not sneaking off to a corner somewhere to vape or do drugs. I think that would be the best place to start.
Thank you. Bill Melvin.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I wrote down that part of our responsibility being policies and procedures, but that's kind of, I don't want to say it's empty, but I'm not sure it addresses the issue. I think we can encourage the administrators to hold assemblies to talk about vaping and talk about the issues associated with with vaping in schools. I think that anything we can do to engage the community to help kind of educate our students with regards to drug, alcohol, vaping, any of that type of stuff is going to be helpful. There's no silver bullet with regards to these kind of issues. It's prevalent throughout our society, and I think our job is to just to kind of create an environment where other people, probably not going to be the school committee, but other organizations can step in and help kids understand the dangers of that. So.
Thank you. Andrea Liakis?
Bill, you and I are on the same wavelength. I think when you close the bathroom, you just punish the person that actually has to go. It's not really punishing the kid that's going to go in there and vape. I do think that we need a little bit more drug and alcohol education, probably within the curriculum, but I wish there was more peer-to-peer education about these types of struggles. I don't know if we have any sort of stipend position for that type of initiative, but I think it would be really valuable. Kids do respond to each other much more than they will respond to adults. And I think if you have a kid who is a leader, who is able to, who maybe has some social clout, who is able to communicate the dangers of certain extracurricular activities, you will have more kids that will buy into that idea. I also think we need to engage the parents a lot more about what they allow and what types of conversations they're having with their kids about making safer choices. And then lastly, I think having any sort of enrichment programming that involves maybe addicts in recovery that maybe tell their story. I think those have been very powerful in my experience. I don't think having a bathroom monitor is a great use of someone's time. It's sort of just become a lazy, necessary evil at this point. And I think we need to get creative on how we're going to reach kids, but it might go beyond the walls of the school.
Thank you. Laura Wiesen?
Yeah, it's a great question, important issue. I think there's two parts. As a school committee, officially, as Bill said, it's sort of boring, but we write policy. And what we also do is sort of propose ideas and use our space to publicize issues. So on this issue of vaping, I know Gloucester Public Schools is working with the Gloucester Health Department. I'm part of the Regional Youth Prevention Network, which is health departments in this area who work with the schools. There was training, which I know school personnel around this area, the North Shore, were doing on mental health first aid, which was just identifying kids with issues. Andrea, to your question, we do at the high school have something called the Youth Mental Health Ambassadors. And they wear green bandanas is their sort of symbol. So it's more broad. It's a mental health thing, but it's a way to have peer-to-peer interaction. And I think, I know we have had some presentations where people who have, recovered from addiction have come and spoken at the high school, and it's been very, very well received. And that's been for students and for families. I think we've done some of those for families as well. We can always do more. And I also want to say Safety Day, which happens at the end of the year, and Officer Scola does. It's almost a little bit of, maybe it's a little bit of scared straight, but they show students what happens in a car if you're under the influence. And I think they always want to do that with seniors before they leave. And I'm not saying that's just one piece of a very big puzzle. That starts at home. But I think there's lots of things we can do. As a school committee, it's not exactly, but we can always be advocating. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Mineo?
Yeah, a lot of the same points that I was going to bring up, of course. A lot of good ideas here. We do have a program in the middle school. It's called Health Class, I think, roughly speaking. My son's told me all about it, and they don't talk about, sexual health or anything like that. They only talk about vaping and drugs, and he tells me all about it, and he still tells me that he knows kids that do it, and I'll go back again to positive peer influence, but that's only going to get so far. So similar to Laura and I think Andrea as well, the Scared Straight program kind of vibe, where maybe even a high school student who has struggled and recovered from it could come to the middle school and talk because they're in the community themselves. But, I'm thinking about the SNL skit. You don't want to end up in a van down by the river, that kind of thing. It's an age of exploration. There's only so much we can do. And as a parent, I talk to my son about this. I tell him that, what I think is, the folly of falling into this kind of group and these drugs that are going to hurt his mind. We have frank conversations about it, and that's the other thing, is empowering parents to have the right information to advocate for their children to lead a healthy life.
Thank you. Kathy Clancy?
So I'll go back to what I said to begin with about people valuing in our community, valuing education, and that message being one of those that is, becomes pervasive. And I think messaging around what behavior is acceptable or what is cool or not cool can help. I think just setting those expectations. But also we have a director of mental health in Amy Cam, who does a lot of work getting external partnerships. I mean, there's connections with all sorts of resources. So, there's a lot of people in the counseling department that try to identify problems to hopefully counsel students and their families to get help outside. At the high school, they have what's called a smart pass, so that students have to check out of their class. They get kind of, timed on how long they're gone. So some of those are preventative. It doesn't necessarily change probably the desire or the want, but it is sending the message that it's not acceptable and we're not a forum for that in our schools. It is a big problem. I mean, every generation, I think, faces, one pressure or another of behavior that is probably not the safest behavior, and they're not of age to be making those decisions. But we've all, unfortunately, had our own challenges, and our parents had their challenges. So the more we can do to bring external, presentations, I think they're really powerful. We've had them on domestic violence in the past. We've had them on suicide. And so I think those kinds of efforts can reach a lot of people at the high school and probably should be done at the middle school as well.
Thank you. Jeremy McKean?
Thank you. One thing that I always go back to is kind of a mantra among admin and teachers, that it's all about relationships with kids and students. The more of a valuable relationship that the students have with their teachers, they can come to them with problems. They are often, not following the crowd. To have bathroom doors open and teachers sitting outside of those bathrooms, that is, fearful that the kids will vape, and knowing that they're going to vape, I think it's not an end all. I think we have a system of restorative justice that we practice in Lynn, which sends kids to programs, which has its own steps of getting better and healing, and so that idea of restorative justice gives the kids a chance to turn things around in a very thoughtful, mindful, intentional process. We all wear seatbelts now. Seatbelts weren't a thing for many years, and we had, now we have seatbelts, and we had the drinking age at 18, and now it's at 21. We've had vaping is just the newest thing, and after that it's going to be something else. So we have to stay vigilant, we have to have relationships, and we have to have a program of justice that truly serves the students and, doesn't just badger them with the same statistics that we all do about, vaping or drinking or drugs, but has, maybe a personal story from a teacher will kind of make that connection more so than detention.
Thank you. Now, Staber?
Yeah, I think this really starts with mental health support. I think we need to expand our mental health support because we shouldn't have our students feeling the need to go down these paths. And if they do, then I think we really should talk to them, figure out why they're feeling that way, why they feel the need to do things like that, and work to support them, because the last thing we want is our students graduating from Gloucester High School with a serious addiction problem. So expanding mental health, talking to our students, and getting our parents involved. It starts at a young age. Kids don't, they get involved with things online. So we need to make sure our parents are educated, they know what to look for, and we need to make sure that we're solving this problem before it becomes a big issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Brianna Hodgkins?
Yes, so first off, the bathrooms should not be closed for students who need to use the bathrooms. If we have to close the bathrooms, we should have hallway monitors. They don't have to be police or militant, but a presence in the hall, a positive presence in the hall, to be there to help and make sure things are going smoothly. Second of all, I think that our kids are getting into vaping and doing drugs earlier and earlier than we used to. So oftentimes, by the time that health class conversation comes, it's a year or 2 years after these kids are already doing this. So we need to be more proactive. We need to have these conversations earlier and often younger than we think we should be having these conversations. Again, I'll go back to where I stand with collaborations and partnerships. The Gloucester Health Department has previously supported us through some of the community events we had over the last year. They have offered to do a partnership with us, and they could help come in and provide resources that could do trainings and things like that. Outside of the health department, I'm sure there's a lot of other resources that we could explore and look into. Again, positive peer relationships. We can have some positive peers that are held high in the community, and we could ask them to, get a stimulus or some sort of credit for stepping up and being that positive peer person in the room. So I think that there's a lot of things we can do to prevent the bathrooms from being closed, because I think that also sends the wrong messages to our students that we have a lot of bad students and we can't get into our bathroom and use our bathrooms. So we need to change that message. We need to be upfront and early and make collaborations and partnerships so that we could get additional resources to help us with these goals. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it for our questions. We'll give each candidate up to, oh, I'm sorry, Melissa. I'm sorry, my mistake.
Okay.
Melissa Teixeira.
So we're talking about vaping and drugs, which are addictions, and I'm going to say out loud, addiction sucks. I've had a lot of training in addiction. Where at my work, I help a lot of families with addiction. There are families in Gloucester that come into the court for Section 35s where a parent can petition the court to get their child or their loved one assistance against their will. That is one of my responsibilities in this community, and I've established a lot of relationships and a lot of trust with families in this community because of addiction. In addition, I've also lost my son to addiction, so this is a true topic to my heart. But what I can say is, I took a recovery coach class with the Community Impact Unit, and through that class and other trainings that I've had, I've learned that when it comes to talking about either vaping or doing drugs, the person that is seeking help really wants to talk to somebody that has been in that position. I went through the class, I am not an addict, and realized after 6 weeks of my life, I wouldn't be a good recovery coach because I don't know the feelings of that desire. And I also want to point out, I am extremely impressed that the students brought up this as a question to us, because it shows that over the years, the stigma of asking for help with drugs and addiction to things like vaping is starting to go away a little bit, where they feel, where anyone who's in that position feels they can ask for help. We've come a long way in the last 5 years just for that, and I commend our students for this question. Like we've heard, we do have the mental health ambassadors, and there was talk about them attending the recovery coach class and bringing those experiences into the school so that students who have these issues can go to someone who's had training as opposed to trying to find a trusted adult or a teacher. We have brought in speakers that are in recovery, which I think make a huge impact. With regard to the bathroom, I know that we have a system in place where they have to get some sort of electronic key to go. The problem is once they're in the bathroom, you don't know what they're doing. Vaping, you can't see anymore. They have these little pens. No one even knows they're vaping. They do it right in the classroom. All I want to say is, getting peer models is very important to the success of this topic in our high
Thank you.
school, and we'll do anything to support that.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you. That concludes our questions. Okay, we'll give each candidate an opportunity to make a closing summary. Up to 1 minute, please. So these are brief, and we'll start with Naz Taber.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I just want to reiterate, the schools are really the heart of our community, and I think that we all need to work together to take care of them. I think we need to bring trust back to our schools between the union and the school district. We need to get our community voices heard, and we need to action those issues. I'll always make sure that our educators are supported, and we need to remember that the future of our society is in these classrooms every day, and we need to do everything possible to make sure that they are reaching their highest potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Heather Daigle.
Thank you all so much for being here tonight. What you'll get from me as a school committee member is relatability. I'm a parent, just like many of you. I've lived the challenges of raising school-age kids during COVID. My 2 young daughters are still navigating the same struggles. I have a daughter with learning disabilities and anxiety. I'm a natural problem solver and expert in conflict resolution. I will bring those skills to the table every day. I promise to listen to community members and to educators with open ears and an open heart, to represent your concerns and to work towards solutions that truly serve our students, teachers, and families. I'm excited to get to work, and I'm asking for your support to please vote for Heather Daigle on November 4th.
Thank you. Andrea Liakis.
During my career, I have built many different relationships with my students, my colleagues, administrators, and with families. I'm a strong advocate for fully funded and staffed arts programs, the need for better Tier 2 support systems, and the need for educators to have a seat at the table where decisions that directly impact them are being made. I have high expectations for myself, and as a result, I have high expectations of the people that I work with and for. I'm approachable, a great listener. I face challenges head-on, usually with a sense of humor. In order to do that, the first step is open communication with all stakeholders. Having conversations builds connection and trust. Connection and trust build community. A strong community working together creates an environment where our students can and will thrive. It would be an honor to represent the Gloucester community on this school committee alongside any of the folks at this table tonight. My name is Andrea Liakis. I am number 6 on the ballot, and I hope you'll consider voting for me on November 4th.
Thank you. Melissa Teixeira.
Again, Melissa Teixeira Prince, number 7 on the ballot, and I ask for your support once again, as I have over the years. I still have a very strong desire to advocate for kids. I am a voice of the community. I listen to parents, I meet with parents, and hear their frustration and bring those conversations to the table at the school committee level, which is where decisions are made. I feel like I do have trust with the community. I do have trust with some members of the MTA, I would hope, still at this point, because I do value them very much. And I'm hearing a lot about trust tonight, and it's sad that we say that. But I really want to continue the good work that's going on in our schools. There's a lot of collaboration that is going to come this year as a result of the new contract that we have with the teachers and the paraprofessionals, and I want to be a part of the outcomes where student outcomes are improved. So I ask you for your vote on November 4th.
Thank you. Laura Wiesen.
So one of the things about being a school committee member is there's a steep learning curve. You come in, and when I came in, I didn't know what Tier 2 was, right? Because if you're not an educator, you wouldn't know that necessarily. 6 years in, with 2 students who've now reached the middle school level, I've learned a tremendous amount about public education, about Gloucester Public Schools, and built really, really beautiful relationships with my children's teachers and with people I've worked with throughout the district. We've made important improvements. We've done really important work together, and there's still work to do. And I really, I feel strongly about bringing my experience, my dedication, my place as a parent and a community member back into the Gloucester Public Schools to continue to support them. It's for my children and it's for your children. It's for all of Gloucester to support these schools. So I am number 2 on the ballot, and I hope for your vote on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill Melvin?
Yes, in closing, I'd simply like to say that I'm optimistic about the future of the Gloucester Public Schools. I'm optimistic in general, and I certainly sense there's a reason to be right now. I think I'm going to say a quick thing about 3 things. One is the community and the need for the community to encourage students to be great learners or to be good students. That's important, and I think sometimes we get lost in that. I think it's also important that the staff remember that you could be, and when I say staff, teachers, cafeteria workers, bus drivers, you could be the pull for a student to come to school every day. It's not just the teachers, it's staff. It could be someone in the cafeteria or anything. And the third thing is, so don't be afraid to be that pull for a student. And the third thing is to the parents. Value, I came from a home where education wasn't really valued. Don't be afraid to value education within your kids and to say, hey, it's important to us that you be well educated and you need to work in schools. So appreciate your vote on October 4th. I don't know what number I am on the ballot, so. November.
Thank you. Keith Minio?
Hi, it's my turn. Yeah, I don't want to say that, come November 4th, we do have ranked choice voting. A lot of great candidates on the stage. I would be proud to serve with anybody here on this panel. We all have the right hearts for this, the reason for being here, and, to better the schools for our kids and our prosperity. Some things that, I think people should keep in mind, that we need to balance consistency on the committee with new perspectives. So I'm actually happy that we have a lot of candidates here for you. But just remember, you can vote for a lot of us, ranked choice voting. So I hope you vote for number 8, Keith Minio.
Thank you. Brianna Hodgkins?
Yes, hello. I first want to thank everybody for being here tonight and celebrating my birthday with me. It was a great birthday, so thank you. But we are all aware of the current situations and issues that face us. And we will continue to face those issues if we keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. We will also see an increase of new issues and new problems that are going to come with AI. And what got us here is not going to get us where we need to go in this new world. With out-of-box thinking, with collaborations, partnerships, clear and transparent communication, we can create a better, more equitable future for our students and the community. As a trailblazer, as a mother of a special education student in this system, as a mother of a neurotypical student in the system, I have the passion and the get-it-done attitude.
Thank you, Brianna.
To make it happen. Please consider me for school committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy McKean?
Yes, thank you to 1623. Thank you to the Magnolia Library. I just wanted to end with saying how much I love Gloucester Public Schools. I've been impressed since the very beginning when we had our kids in the preschool. It's one of those things where your heart swells so much you feel like it's cliche, but it's not. Like from the beginning, our kids have had an excellent education. They've had excellent teachers and paras. Gloucester Public Schools offers so much. I want to send my kids here. And nobody laughed. But Gloucester High School, for example, just the VOC program that they have going now, 5 vocational programs to go through. I mean, that is going to capture so many kids who don't know what their path is going to be. We have to be honest about our students. Only a third of them might go to college, or a little over a third. And we have the rest of them, and we have to offer them a future where they can go to trade school. Obviously, they can go into the military. We need to help them plan as much as we plan, and I'm just so grateful. So please, I think I'm number 3 on the ballot. Vote Jeremy McKean for school committee. I really love this job, and I want to keep on with it.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you.
Kathy Clancy?
Thank you all for being here, and also for people that will be watching this. I want to direct everybody's attention to a presentation at the June 11th meeting given by Principal Cook about where our kids are heading to next year. And so as much as we've been talking about a lot of challenges, our kids have great plans after graduation. The majority know what is next for them. That is part of the mission that has been making sure kids know from the moment they come in our schools to the moment they leave that there are ways to explore and that they have a path to their future. And we are doing an excellent job with that. And the kids feel supported by our guidance office. So yes, there are things, there are challenges, but let me tell you, there are so many things to celebrate in our schools, and we do it at every school committee meeting, and we talk about our good things and we talk about our challenges. So I remain committed to hopefully providing every kid with zillions of aha moments during their education in Gloucester Public Schools. That to me is just the spark that every kid needs. And Kathy Clancy, I'm first on the ballot, and I would appreciate one of your votes on November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you, 1623 Studios. Thank you all for coming out. I appreciate it. And big thanks to our 10 candidates, both for your generosity with your time and your willingness to serve your community. Thank you. Good luck. Good night. Thank you, Bill. Melissa, I'm sorry.